Hello, I'm Cliff Norris, Development Director with Atlanta Freedom Bands, and I'm here with composer Christopher Kyle Green. We've commissioned a wonderful new work from him called We the People that we will premiere at our upcoming Americans We concert. And we're so happy to have him here today for a little composer conversation. So welcome, Kyle.
Well, thank you for having me, Cliff.
So I want to give you a quick introduction. So Kyle is a definite longtime friend of the band. He was a student composer with us in 2019 and then graduated from Kennesaw State University and now has become a composer on his own in addition to being a psychotherapist. And so we're going to talk a little bit about all that today.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, so, well, let's start at the beginning. So in 2019, December, we presented The Sacred Pipe as a part of our student composer residency program while you were still a student. And I guess a lot has happened since then, aside even from the global pandemic. So tell us a little bit about your journey since then.
Yeah, so back in 2019, that was the first premiere that I've had of a big programmatic work, actually. It kind of helped put my name on the map in that sense. The premiere, I'd actually just come home from the Midwest Clinic, my very first one, got off the plane and immediately came to the concert. Since then, I've graduated from graduate school, and like you said, I'm now a psychotherapist at Kennesaw State University. And I've been commissioned really all around the world since then. Yeah, that piece really, it's still one of my best sellers to this day, and it's helped me a lot. So yeah, and I'm like you said, I'm a new psychotherapist, and I try to interweave the musical context of things into a psychological atmosphere to endorse healing, I guess, if you will. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can speak more about that though.
Well, sure. So, so over that time, I guess, how would you say your compositional style has evolved?
Yeah, so I used to write music that was nearly impossible to play. So, yeah, my musical style and my compositional style has remained relatively the same. You know, I'm not the typical orthodox composer that'll sit at the piano and think of a melody and play chords that go along with that. I'm very much structured in my day-to-day work, like in therapy, because you have to be. People's well-being it's in my care, right? So composing for me has now become this free-spirited activity that I get to do that has no structure or style. So but before his death, Robert W. Smith has been my mentor alongside with Julie Giroux, and we've really been able to lean into getting the technicalities of music onto the page while allowing kind of just a thought process and allowing music to just come out of thin air. So I've really embraced that type of compositional style of not really caring about what I'm putting on the page. It just kind of ends up there. If that makes sense. Like I said, I'm not very orthodox when it comes to composing these days. So.
Oh no, I think everyone has their own style, and it just amazes me, faced with, a blank page with all the staff lines. like where do you start? How do you even plan the first note?
Yeah, I ask myself the same question.
Writing a novel, what is the first sentence you put down? And you hope it's a dark and stormy night, the musical equivalent. But
yes.
But you've given us two wonderful pieces, both in The Sacred Pipe and the one that we're going to be talking about in a minute. So your biography mentions that you try to blend your work as a psychotherapist into your composing, and which I thought was a really unique perspective. Mm-hmm. So how does that work? Yeah,
so what I typically try to do is I try to find the mood, right? First thing that I'm always thinking of is, what am I trying to say, right? And that's a really difficult place to start a lot of the time. So I kind of approach it in terms of psychologically, what am I trying to evoke in the audience? And usually that comes with words and emotional words, vulnerabilities, things like that. What are we trying to feel, and what are the physical sensations that we're trying to invoke from the music, right? And then I take it a little bit of a step further of kind of thinking of listening to music as a collective experience, especially in the concert band world, to thinking, how is the ensemble going to respond to this, and what are the emotions that are going to come up as the musicians are performing collectively, and how are we projecting that to the audience. So it's just one big collective experience, you know. A lot of the program notes that I'll write, you'll notice words like atmospheric and things like that. It's all about just like what's vibrating in the room at the time. So yeah, that's kind of how I approach the psychological realm. Almost as like a bridge between concert band and therapy. Even is kind of doing that through sonic environments, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I would say that's a really unique approach. We get to talk to several different composers, you know, as we work on different pieces, and that's very unique and very informative. You know, I think that's something that I think helps make your music connect with people maybe even more or on a different level than other pieces. Yeah,
and it's almost to use a therapeutic approach to this. We have the wise mind and the emotion mind, and you know, a lot of our life is spent in the logic mind, where we're very practical and focused on pragmatics and logistics of everything. And you know, in today's climate, just as humanity, we don't really get to tap into that emotional side of things, whether it's because we're in a current political environment that won't allow that, or you know, if there's previous even like trauma and things like that that kind of prohibit us from going into that frame of mind, because it's a defense mechanism. So kind of, like I said, bridging that gap between the two, that's saying like, it's okay to be both at the same time, you know, in different ways. So.
Oh, wow. Well, so you have had a big year this year. You wrote a wonderful piece for our friends in Terra Winds that took you to a very special place. So tell our audience about that.
Yeah, so I've been obsessed with the Terra Winds since I was in 7th grade. That goes way back, and Dr. Andrea Strauss. I kind of worship the ground that she walks on.
She was one of the band directors at Georgia Tech when I was there.
Yep, she was, and an incredible conductor at that too. So I've worshipped the Terra Winds, and it has been on my bucket list since I was in 7th grade to 1, perform in the ensemble, and 2, write a piece for the ensemble. And now I can check both off. Yeah. So yeah, what they did, Andrea approached me and asked me if I was interested in composing a piece of music for them at the CBDNA Southern Conference down in Tampa. So we came together, and she's very organized, very, very organized. She had an idea in mind.
Oh, and just that acronym, in case the audience isn't familiar, that's the College Band Directors National Association.
National Band Association.
National gathering of the band directors are coming to see this piece. So
yeah, and it's kind of a step, like a half a step below Midwest, is from what I've heard. So which is great. I mean, it's regional. So yeah, she approached me, and we decided to write a piece called, it was titled Shore of Tears, and it's really focused on ancient immigration, not immigration, but immigration, specifically about like Ireland and how people had to immigrate from there over to the United States to find work, and you know, their current political climate at the time was not as conducive as it is now. And so I kind of tapped into some of the ancient Irish airs and contemporized that a little bit. And so really what I did was I utilized the English horn to be kind of like the emotional speaker of the piece, and there's solos throughout. And it's really a piece that's not given like a conflict at the beginning and resolution at the end. It's more so of like, there's conflict, and then there is underlying grief, and the music kind of sways with the ocean as the person is traveling across the ocean. And it's kind of thinking about the shore always remembers, you know, the shore always remembers. So that was a very, very special piece. I got to compose for the harp and the English horn, and that was a really, really cool experience. So I'm very proud of that piece, and it had a great premiere in Tampa.
Oh, how exciting. How exciting. All right, so now let's talk about the work you've written for our concert. I've worn the appropriate shirt for We the People and show. Kyle has also made this wonderful cover art, which really only, I guess, the directors get to see, but we're going to show it on our social media as we come forward. That really, I think, illustrates the piece so well, like in one picture. So I think we first started talking about it maybe at the end of 2024, because I was preparing to write the grants for it at the beginning of 2025.
It's been a long time coming.
Yeah. So on our side, we looked at the calendar and we saw, America 250 was coming up, although I don't think it was called that even at that time. And we knew that there were going to be a lot of composers that will write something new for that anniversary. Probably patriotic pieces or marches or different kinds of things, and yes, that has happened, and they're all wonderful pieces, but we kind of wanted something different. We wanted to ensure that a queer voice would be represented in that cultural conversation that's happening around the Semiquincentennial. So we reached out, and you agreed, so that was good. And I remember telling you that our only guide to doing this was that, what do you want to say as a young queer person at this moment, as the country is celebrating its 250th anniversary, and you definitely delivered in a good way. So tell us about the piece and walk us through it.
Yeah. So initially, when you reached out, I pondered for a long time about what I was going to write, and as a queer person, I'm not very happy with America right now. Now, I say that, I've come a long way since then, and I think the music will speak for itself. But I went back and forth on, was I going to write something that was going to be dark and March-like and just, brutal and depressing and heavy. And then I thought, well, do I need to write something that is going to sell? As a composer, I have to think about that too. And then we fast forward to today, and we see all the censorship that's happening around music written by queer composers as well too. And so I thought, well, what if I did a little bit of both, right? So I came up with We the People. The title was the first thing that came to mind, is We the People, and the piece starts out dark. There is a little bit of glimmer of hope in the beginning, and it's really focused on two words, the entire structure of the piece, which is quiet resilience, right? Which I know at the end of the piece is not very quiet, but throughout the piece it's just quiet resilience, and it's about standing up as not just a community, but as a people, right? So I had the choice to write this as a queer composer focused on queer rights, LGBTQIA plus rights, or I could look at all marginalized populations here. Now, I am a therapist, but I have my master's in social work, so I'm kind of geared to look towards communities as a whole, right? So I really wanted to focus on not just the LGBT community, but also those who are working middle class, Black women, I'm blanking.
Like marginalized people, people who don't have access to the resources they need to live well.
Yes, anything that is other than what is considered normative these days, right? Because I see and I hear those populations. I work with them every single day. So I wanted to compose something that would unite everybody as a whole. It starts off with a dark moment, and then we transition into these little firework-like motifs, right? And that actually came across because I was actually at our family's lake house, and it was around July, and then it was nighttime, and I was sitting on the dock, and somebody had across the lake set off one little bitty firework, one tiny little firework, and I remember thinking to myself, I was like, "That's it." Right there, that's it. So, it goes from the dark into the light. It transitions into a really interesting key signature. And we kind of have these little bright motifs throughout with a kind of elongating melody line throughout the rest of the piece. But I think what the title is trying to say is it's not over. We're coming together as a people, and with anything that comes about with civil rights and movements and things like that, we're never done, right? So I think it really just signifies the unity and the work that we need to do moving forward as a people.
In listening to this piece, rehearsing it over the past several weeks, I would say definitely, going back to what we talked about with your psychotherapy work, I think there's a place where this can provide some healing and comfort to, well, like our community that's hurting so much, and especially the trans community that is experiencing so much, discrimination, so many like setbacks that we never thought would have happened. 3 years ago when we started working on this, and through the progression of the piece. The fireworks motifs are really fun, and it's like they're for us. There are moments in the struggle when we need to celebrate us as a community, the queer community, so that it gives us the strength to move on. It's a part of we talk about our friends. We have this group called Trans Joy that we affiliate with the band, and they provide joyful experiences for people in the trans community, and we're happy to help in any way we can, because that's a part of surviving these times, and having a piece like this that speaks to the hurt and anger that we have now, and how we together will push through this. We don't know how. Don't know how the story is going to wind up.
Right.
Other than the arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice.
Sure.
At some point, we will wind up with justice.
Sure.
And I think this piece really kind of captures that, and I'm so excited for the audience to experience it. And so for the audience itself, like, what do you want them to take away from this?
That's a really good question, and that's a question that I actually get a lot. As a composer, I think sometimes it's easy to say what you want the audience to take away from things. I think there's a lot of freedom and clarity in allowing the audience to take away what they get from it, right? Now, all that to say, I like to focus on the audience. It's made up of singular people, right? What they get out of it is what they get out of it. As a collective, that's what I really focus on too, is the atmosphere. The vibe is what the kids are calling it these days, right? Like, what is the vibe of this? And I think my goal here for the audience is to evoke curiosity, to continue to see what may work and what may not work, and how other people and their privilege can help another community's privilege, right? We're all feeding off of one another, where we all have to work together. And it's not one community's sole responsibility to find the ways to move forward and to seek those solutions, right? So my goal for this piece is to really give the audience a question.
Right.
Curiosity. I want to know, and I will never know, but I want to really just have them question, what is my role in today's world, and how can I help somebody who is different than me feel safe and secure during this really scary, dark time that we're in, and how can we reinforce the positivity and reinforce the hope that we can move forward. I've always said, we don't ever move on from things, right? That's my therapist version of me coming through. We don't ever move on from things. We can go back in the past and change things, but what we can do is take a really critical analysis of what we have been through, whether it's individual or as a person or as a community, and see what's worked in the past and use that as a strength to move forward in the future. So I'd just like to invoke curiosity. Yeah.
Very cool. So as we're speaking about this piece and this moment in time, another piece that's related to the queer community called Mother of a Revolution, which tells the story of one of the early heroes of our community, Marsha P. Johnson, who was a transgender person in New York City around the time of the Stonewall Revolution. That piece has acquired quite a bit of notoriety in the news because a school board in Wisconsin banned their high school band from playing it at their spring concert, which took place just a couple of weeks ago. So in a way, it's taken a direction of its own trajectory that no one had expected. And so as I was preparing to speak to you today, I was wondering if, I don't know, do you have any idea or hopes of where we the people will go in the future, like where it might?
I hope that it has some sort of impact, as Omar Thomas's piece does right now, A Mother of a Revolution. I hope that it ends up in that type of impact, right?
You want your piece banned.
Hey, I'm all about
He's all about band music, yeah, but
band music, right? Right, and I always think, even as a composer, and I read a lot too, I read a lot of band books actually, and I always think that if you can make it onto a band list, you've done your job, right? Because that means it's really impactful. So, I mean, I hope that this doesn't get banned, of course, but if it does, then I'll pat myself on the back, because I'll know that I've made it in that context. However, but what I really want, especially performing ensembles, to know moving forward, or to what they get from this piece, is empowerment. Right. I really want every person who is performing it and in the audience to feel empowered, and to know that you do have a voice. You are celebrated as a human being and as a community. And I hope it blows up. It's a hard piece of music, so it's a really, really hard piece of music, which it may limit, my production. But, I think that even if there's this one gay band kid in middle school that hears a recording of it just like I was, and ends up in a situation where they're sitting here having a piece commissioned in the future because they heard a piece like this and felt seen, felt heard, then I will know that myself as a composer has done my job well. Yeah.
Yeah. So sort of a last question. So what does it mean for you to work with a group like Atlanta Freedom Bands?
Well, I feel at home. I'm with my people, right? I'm with my people and our allies, our friendly allies, right? It really means actually more than I actually originally thought, because it's my people, it's the community that I identify with, but it's also, you guys are a nonprofit, right? And so I always see that there's so much work within the community, and even before our interview just now, you were telling me all the events that you guys are going to be doing just in the month of June, and that is incredible. And it's for the community, right? So to spread the voice of equality and queer joy, right? So it really, it's so validating for me to work with an ensemble and an organization like your organization, because it really sheds light on those who are silenced in our current world. It's just very freeing, and it feels very comfortable to be able to come into a space and to be able to talk freely and not feel judgment from others, and especially the egos in our industry. This is a safe space and a safe organization for me. So it really means a lot personally. So I genuinely appreciate you guys asking me to come back and work with you again.
Oh, well, we are so glad. And we definitely appreciate you as a person and this wonderful music that you've written for us to perform. And I know the audience is going to really enjoy getting to know you as well at the concert, and can't wait for it. So, audience, we want you to come to our show, Americans We, celebrating our shared story in music. It's taking place Saturday, June the 20th at 7 p.m. at the Ray Charles Performing Arts Center at historic Morehouse College. Tickets are available at atlantafreedombands.com. And just to note, there's a lot of free parking right at the campus near the theater, and there's no World Cup game that night, so the traffic through downtown should be easier due to that. So there's no excuse for you to come out and hear this wonderful piece of music and all the other wonderful selections that we have in store for the concert. So thanks, Kyle, for being with us.
Well, thank you, Cliff. Thank you so much.
Thanks. And we'll see you all at the show.